You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Welcome back to No One Told Us, the podcast that tells the truth about parenting and talks about all the stuff you wish you knew before having kids. I am your host, Rachael Shepard-Ohta, and today I'm so excited to speak with Marina Cooley. I am such a fan of her work. She's an educator, marketing professor, writer, and creator of one of my favorite Substacks, Professor Off Duty. Marina is an assistant professor of marketing at Emory University, and lately she's been leading what she calls a hobby revolution, encouraging adults to reclaim parts of themselves that exist outside of just our work. She actually tried 17 hobbies in a single year and has become passionate about helping other people build lives centered around joy, curiosity, and connection. Marina, I am so happy to have you here. I've loved following you on all of the platforms for the last year, more maybe. So thank you so much for joining.
I'm so happy to be here, and I could not be a bigger fan of the work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I'm like, I can't even believe you know who I am. You're just like such a boss to me. I'm going to just like nerd out this entire podcast because I feel like I just stalk your content and love all of it. Especially, we're going to get into this in a little bit, but I especially love all of the things that you share about Danish culture. My family went to Copenhagen last year. We just fell in love with it.
It's hard not to fall in love. I really don't know anyone that has gone and not come back thinking, I need more of Danish living in my own life.
Yes, totally. There's so many things we could learn from them, and we will get to that. But first, I have to start with what you've kind of become known for, which is hobbying. Because you say that hobbies are things that we need. And I think we all kind of know that on a very basic level, but I think once you become a parent, it's so hard to actually put into practice. So why do you think parents in particular really need hobbies?
Well, that's a great place to start. So I think it's related to work and parenting. There are these two things that have no bounds. There is never going to be a moment when someone tells you your work is done. Like you have reached the end of your inbox. Like go ahead. There's nothing left for you. And as you know, parenting is like that too, in a sweet and lovely way. And yes, eventually our kids will leave and there will be this end. But the years that we're in right now, it feels like there is no end, right? The dishwasher will always need to be emptied. The second that you finish a load, there will always, I promise you, be another load.
Yeah.
And even on the days when I am able to give my kids my all, the next day I want to give that all again. So there's no end. And I think that all of us, or at least I think the people in my community and in your community, we're all looking for ways to be here, to somehow be with our kids, to be with our work, even that load of laundry, to just do that thing. But it's really hard because we're constantly spinning about the next thing that we have to do. As always on people, sometimes we have to take very prescriptive actions to get to that stop. You have to create it yourself. And I love the advice about slowing down, about eating my breakfast slowly, about sitting on a park bench and looking out. I love that advice. Unfortunately, I am not a relaxed enough person to take it. And I honestly believe that there are enough people out there that are as, unable to relax as me.
Yes.
That this advice is helpful. And so by taking time to say, I will go do this hobby now, it is a way of living and existing on your calendar. It is something for you because that other stuff will never end.
Right. Yeah, that's such a good point, especially if you work for yourself or if you're like a writer or, a freelancer or an entrepreneur and you just like, you really don't have those lines of when your work starts and ends because you could be working all the time. And I think our culture is so bad at treating us like we should be working all the time. So it can be really hard. And then when you add kids, what ages would you say you found it to be more feasible to take on hobbies? Or did you just not even think about it till your kids were older?
I did not start hobbying, I don't think, until it was a little bit too late. So I think many of us reach a point where we say, I actually can't go on like this, and we can't go on like this.
Yeah.
So when my kids were teeny tiny, I did a lot of what I would call at-home hobbies. So almost like parallel play. So I'm doing a DIY project and they're right next to me. And I think that for a season, that is enough to get you by. Now I have more serious outside of the home hobbies. So tennis, for example, where there's a structure. We practice on Mondays. We have matches on Sundays. We have a clinic on Wednesdays. So there's a schedule and I will leave the home. But I have to tell you, Rachael, that I have incredible women that I respect that are playing tennis until the week that they have a baby. And then as soon as they are able to, they're rejoining the team. And the strength that community brings those few times a week when they're walking away, that probably does more for their mental health than any other action that you can take.
I was going to say, I think that's such a huge piece of why we need to normalize hobbies, especially in early motherhood, because I think so many of us enter parenting extremely isolated. If we weren't isolated already, parenthood has a way of isolating you if you're not really intentional and really careful about it. So yeah, I love that.
I have so much respect for these women, and I did not have that strength or confidence when I had teeny kids, and I think that's why the work that you do is so important, because to have a voice that encourages people that you can go be you and you'll be better when you get back, and don't ask any questions about what happened while you were gone. Those are all positive steps.
Yeah. And I think we're taught too as women that our hobbies are superfluous or not important. And it's just very normalized for men to continue on with their hobbies like golfing or, whatever it is, even when they do become a new dad. And for us, it feels like it's just like the first thing to be sacrificed.
Yes, although I have to tell you, I've been really surprised as I've gone deeper on this research, how much dads feel like they also have to give up their hobbies. I feel really great to have heard more voices as dads saying, hey, I feel such an expectation to provide for my family if that is their role. And as the provider of this family, I no longer feel like I can have a hobby either. And I think because there are so many memes around, dads playing golf or having a fantasy league, that we have now, done a disservice to both.
Yeah.
So I can't have a hobby, and so I'm going to guilt you about your hobby, when what we really need is to both have hobbies and to support each other's hobbies. And again, it's that action, right? It's hard for me to ask, hey, partner, can I go sit on a park bench for 30 minutes? That's a really hard ask versus, hey, every Monday night at 7 p.m., my team plays. There's structure.
Yeah. So do you think that when starting out with hobbies, because I think that's also what gets a lot of people to just give up on hobbies altogether, is they say, oh, well, this team only meets at 7 p.m., but like my baby needs me to go to sleep. They won't fall asleep for anybody but me. So guess I can't do that hobby. Guess I can't do any hobby. Do you feel like that's something that like really gets in the way? But then at the same time, I feel like it's harder to be consistent or accountable when we're doing our DIY hobbies at home. Like it is easier in some ways to get up and go to something that's like an appointment. How do you reconcile those things?
I think there's a lot of narratives we tell ourselves about hobbies. Actually, about a lot of things. We tell ourselves a lot of narratives about joy, right? I am going to work now and I'll get something good later. Or it can only be me that packs this bag. Or I'm the only one that knows how to do this. And those narratives start to, you can poke a lot of holes in them. And the more times you realize that that's a false narrative, the more confidence you gain that someone might not do it exactly like you, but they're going to do it. And so I think hobbies provide this really great practice in poking holes at the stories we tell ourselves. And then we can take that lesson and apply it in more places. So it's like we're gaining confidence in having fun and experiencing joy and not deferring all of it.
Okay, I love that. And you have also said that finding hobbies has helped, with so many different aspects of your mental health. But what I'm thinking of in particular is reducing our screen time and our scrolling time. Like the news is just continuously bad. And scrolling, we know, is not great for our mental health. So how has having different hobbies helped you with cutting back on your screen time?
It's so funny that my specialty is content marketing. So I study algorithms and virality, and I'm probably one of the few people that can say I get paid to watch TikToks.
Right.
And I do. And even despite knowing that and studying it, when I first started to research hobbies and ran this hobby experiment where I tried 17 hobbies in a year, it did not immediately connect to me that it was impossible to do a hobby and hold a phone at the same time. But those are mutually exclusive events. I cannot hold a racket and a phone. I cannot do a puzzle and hold a phone. I cannot, spin a pottery wheel and hold a phone. And so automatically you are putting down your phone. That is part of it. And I think it's like a side benefit, right? I don't want to do a hobby just to put down a phone. I want to do it because it makes me feel human, because making feels really good, because I want to have a break from my brain. And then as like this cherry on top, it's like, yes, I am reducing my phone time. And I will say it really grates me when people wear an Apple Watch to play tennis. And then they have texts coming in and they're like,
oh my God, no, it defeats
no.
the whole purpose. Yeah.
It defeats the whole purpose. It makes me really upset.
I feel you. I refuse to get an Apple Watch just on principle. You say too that having a hobby is a way to kind of preserve our humanity. I feel like in this world of algorithms and AI, you say it can preserve our humanity and can also be like the ultimate act of rebellion, which I just absolutely love. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think if we allow technology to rip at the rate that it's going, we can outsource just about everything, including our critical reasoning. It wouldn't be that hard. Everything, right? I don't need to plan my vacation. I don't need to plan my family dinners. I don't need to write my emails. Like, who are you then? What do you make? And I think that one of the best ways to stop consuming is to start creating, to move into the mindset of a maker. And what I really like about the word make is I think we immediately think about something tangible, like, right? Like I made a pot. But I think you can also make a friend. You can make a shot. And so hobbies push us out of consumption and into making. And yes, I think that anything that you do that takes you away from consuming is sticking it at this, is sticking it. Because your attention is for sale.
Right. And it's so interesting too, because I find even it's just like this, marker of late stage capitalism, I guess, but even hobbies are now being monetized. But I think it was you, or maybe it was another creator that I follow about this that said like, no, the definition of a hobby is that you are not monetizing it. You are not doing it for content. You are not doing it just to post or to sell things online. It is just something for you. It is not something that we monetize like for the man, right?
I hope that it was not just me. I hope everyone is communicating this, but I did write something that I called 10 Ways to Ruin a Hobby. And you better believe, number one is turning your hobby into some sort of monetization or self-improvement project. And I do get really precious about this because your side hustle is not a hobby. Like, leave my hobby word alone.
Yes.
Keep it pure. We're not making money off of this. The whole point is to take a break from that.
I love that.
As you guys know, we recently had to completely overhaul our main bathroom. It was a complete disaster. Things were falling apart, and it was kind of a surprise. We weren't planning on a huge renovation, so we really had to stay in a pretty tight budget, and Wayfair seriously came to the rescue. Now, this is my third or fourth renovation that I've done in our homes throughout the years, and I always end up sourcing lots of our materials from Wayfair. Particularly, their really great finishes like mirrors and vanities and our gorgeous tile that everyone is always asking me about. So with Wayfair, you can find quality materials that stand up to real life. I have 3 little kids. It has to be built to last. It has to be durable, and it really has to be hand vetted by product specialists. They have rewards programs where Wayfair rewards members get 5% back every day, helping you get even more value from your Wayfair purchases. And their reviews are incredible. There is real proof that Wayfair products are worth the hype. You can read more than 20 million verified 5-star reviews from real shoppers on their website, see real customer photos and get their feedback before you buy something, and use those reviews to help you narrow your choices to shop with confidence. You can join Wayfair Rewards today to get 5% back on every purchase and start saving on your next home upgrade. Head to wayfair.com to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Midi knows that just when you thought you had your body all figured out, bam, perimenopause. Suddenly, your hormones are raging like it's puberty round 2. You're waking up at 3 a.m. and dealing with mood swings that have mood swings. Your ears are itchy, your jeans don't fit, you need an industrial-sized fan to cool down, and you've suddenly forgotten the word for microwave. Most women in perimenopause don't know that they are, even though it can last for 10 years. They also don't realize that most of their symptoms are treatable. That's why we built Midi Health. Midi is a company built by women who've been through it. Our menopause experts actually listen and treat the real symptoms you're feeling. Your symptoms aren't just common, they're treatable. Schedule a visit with a menopause specialist at Midi. Visit joinmidi.com. Specialist-led care, virtual visits, insurance eligible. Midlife needs Midi. Results may vary. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate based on a consultation with a clinician. Insurance coverage varies. Check with your plan for coverage.
What would you say are like the most, maybe your favorite hobbies or the ones that you feel like would be kind of a good gateway drug hobby to someone who wants to get started? What are the ones that are just really low cost to entry, low barrier, good hobbies that pretty much anybody could enjoy?
I think if you would have asked me that even 6-9 months ago, I would have rattled off really popular hobbies, right? There's a reason they become popular. Like mahjong is having such a peak moment, and you can take lessons with friends. It gets you together. You can buy really affordable sets on Amazon. I think there's a reason pickleball is so popular, because you don't need huge amounts of skill. You can show up on a court. There's hundreds of thousands of courts at this point. You pull together a few friends, but still those require some people. So maybe you start by getting a puzzle, an adult Lego. Those are all the things that I can still say as a starter. But what I think that I've learned now that I've been at this for a while, Rachel, is that hobbies that you stick to that give you really that protective mental health component are ones that balance you out. And so you really have to think about what your day looks like, because if you are spending your day providing, let's say, childcare, right? So you are a childcare provider. You need a hobby that balances that out. Little people are so challenging. It's the hardest job in the world. Mm-hmm. And so you want to do something that feels different. And depending on the age that your kids are, that different could be that you yourself are playing, right? So something like tennis would really balance you out because you've been doing all of these repetitive tasks. And the thing about tennis is there's no shot that's ever the same. So that provides that balance. Or maybe you're with littles and you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to because your kids don't even talk yet, right? Mm-hmm. They're babbling. They're sweet babbling. And so something like mahjong is wonderful because it gives you this brain task where, you're concentrating and you're creating new hands and combinations, and it's giving you that brain power that you want. But I will tell you, for me, as someone that writes and researches, mahjong is a terrible fit. My brain is absolutely done. And so even though I say, hey, I really like this game, or hey, I really want to play more chess, that is not realistic. I need hobbies that do something different for me. So one of the things I'm really excited about, I've been taking all of the research and developing a quiz. It won't be perfect, but the intent is that you talk about what your day is like, what your personality is like, and based on research, you'll be paired with a hobby. And so I think that will launch in about a month for free, because no gatekeeping hobbies ever.
Amazing. Okay, so by the time this comes out, that'll probably be available. So I'll be able to link it in the show notes if it is. That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, as you're talking about that, I spend all day at this desk, either researching or writing or creating content behind my phone. So I feel like something that is active, that gets me out of this chair, that is with other people in real life would probably be what is best for me to provide that balance. I love that.
That's what you need. Yes.
Do you think also that kids benefit? Because I think a lot, you also talk about mom guilt and how you do not subscribe to mom guilt, which I am getting better at myself as well. And I think that's another kind of excuse or story or barrier that we tell ourselves, oh, I can't have a hobby because my kid will be too upset if I leave. Or, I can't do this thing because, things will fall apart at home or whatever. I have mom guilt about doing something that requires 2 nights a week or whatever it is. But what do you think about reframing that as something that actually benefits our family and benefits our kids?
I have so many thoughts on this. My kids are my biggest hobby advocates. So there are times when I feel like they're at, first, I just want to say that they're most amazing ages. They're 8 and 9. They're so
8 is
fun.
great. My son is 8 too. Yeah,
They're
it's the best.
so great. And so sometimes it's not a mom guilt thing. It's that I want to consume you, like I want to be around you. And so I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go it's Monday, but I'm not going to go. I want to be with you. And my daughter, who's 9, she will take my little hand, put her little hand on it. And she goes, but you love tennis. You need to go.
Sweet. Yeah.
And I mean, imagine the daughter that I'm raising. I mean, it gives me goosebumps because this is a woman that is going to she's going to grow into a woman that believes she is worthy of her own interests and that her time is not just to produce something. And
or to take care of everybody else's needs,
or to
first.
take care of everyone else's needs. She is going to grow up with such a firm understanding of joy and releasing herself, I hope, from future all kinds of guilt. So eventually, and I'm not saying that your 3-year-old is going to take your little hand and tell you to go play tennis, but eventually you'll see these, this rolling benefit, this butterfly effect of when I do this, I model something for my kids. But then I think hobbying with my kids is probably what has made parenting so much fun. Like I don't know if you and I are together on this. We don't need to be, but I was never like that good at playing.
Oh my God, I'd rather die, honestly.
Okay.
If my kids ask me to pretend play, I just want to run away and hide.
Okay,
yes.
great. So that was like not my time to shine.
Yeah.
But hobbies with kids, man, that gives us such a shared interest. It makes parenthood so much more interesting. And so I have unique hobbies with each kid together. And so my kids are like, they're deep on hobbies. I was laying with my son one night and he was listing all the things that he loved. He was probably like 6 at the time. And he just goes, I have so many hobbies.
That's amazing. I love that. My kids are really into reading right now. So my son and I have like a little reading time together every night where I have my book and he has his book, and that's like our little thing. And then my daughter loves to bake with me. And yeah, I totally agree. Playing is really not my thing. My husband will play sports with them and things like that, but that's just not for me. So I think finding other things you can do with your kids is so helpful. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about one of our favorite shared topics, which is Nordic countries, Danish culture, and what they get right and what we can learn from them about enjoying life as well. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back with Marina and we are going to shift to talking about something. I think this actually might have been how I found you on social media in the first place. I can't remember if it was the hobby thing or if it was when I was researching for my trip to Denmark last summer. But you tell us about how you kind of got involved with studying Danish culture. You go to Denmark, to Copenhagen, I think, right? Every year. Tell us about how you got interested in that and what you do over there.
I don't know if you've heard of the book, A Year of Danishly Living.
Yes, I have.
So right around the time that was published, maybe just a few years before that, they had started publishing the happiest countries in the world, which you are so familiar with and just wrote about yourself.
Yes.
And so those two events happened concurrently. And I think it's probably the American exceptionalism in all of us, right? Where you're just like, who's number one? Like,
right.
What is this?
Why isn't it us? Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so it was seeing Denmark being number one, then this book coming out, learning a little bit more about it. And then that kind of sat. That kind of sat in my head. And as I became a business school professor and watched all of these, type A, productive, efficient humans who are going to go work at McKinsey and Google and take over the world, I was watching all of these students come through and then graduate and then share, some feelings of, is this what this is? I realized we didn't do a lot to prepare our students for being happy. And I ended up writing a proposal for a class called Happiness Blueprint, where I thought we could study elements of happiness and then go observe what that looked like in culture. And I know you love watching culture, and that probably teaches us more about our own culture than just about anything else. It's like you get a chance to ricochet and say to yourself, what I'm seeing makes me uncomfortable. And that's probably because I do it different.
Yes,
And
exactly.
that was the proposal. Let's go and take 25 students to Denmark. Let's visit the biggest Danish corporations and let's understand how they're approaching work different. And if you think about the size of Denmark, so I'm in Atlanta. The entire country of Denmark is smaller than the metro Atlanta area. But you're talking about Lego, the largest toy company in the world, Novo Nordisk, which invented Ozempic.
They're having a good year.
And I mean, I can go on, but the level of innovation and productivity coming out of this country, while they have the shortest work week, those two principles don't compute for us because aren't you supposed to work 70, 80 hours a week if you want to succeed?
Right. And aren't you supposed to get back to work 6 weeks after you have a baby?
And it turns out that you can design work in a different way. And so it has been the greatest privilege of my career to be able to take groups of students each year to see for themselves. And the intent is that, at this point, I've taken 3 groups. I'm about to leave with my 4th. So that is 100 students that are going to become leaders, yes, at companies like Google and McKinsey, that will now have a different view of how they can treat employees. And I think that that's really meaningful.
It is. One of the things that struck us, I mean, we loved Copenhagen so much. It's probably one of the only cities we've ever visited internationally where we said, wow, we could actually see ourselves living here and we would have an amazing life probably, I guess, aside from the cost, but that's, nothing different for us. We're in San Francisco. But one thing that we noticed immediately was rush hour was so different. A, because everybody's on bikes, which we love, but B, it seemed to be so early in the day. And
Midi knows that just when you thought you had your body all figured out, bam, perimenopause. Suddenly, your hormones are raging like it's puberty round 2. You're waking up at 3 a.m. and dealing with mood swings that have mood swings. Your ears are itchy, your jeans don't fit, you need an industrial-sized fan to cool down, and you've suddenly forgotten the word for microwave. Most women in perimenopause don't know that they are, even though it can last for 10 years. They also don't realize that most of their symptoms are treatable. That's why we built Midi Health. Midi is a company built by women who've been through it. Our menopause experts actually listen and treat the real symptoms you're feeling. Your symptoms aren't just common, they're treatable. Schedule a visit with a menopause specialist at Midi. Visit joinmidi.com. Specialist-led care, virtual visits, insurance eligible. Midlife needs Midi. Results may vary. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate based on a consultation with a clinician. Insurance coverage varies. Check with your plan for coverage.
Hey everyone, I wanted to share a new children's album with you. You have to check out Magnificent by Lachi. In case you're not in the know, Lachi is a Grammy-nominated musician and author whose work focuses on inclusion and helping kids feel confident in who they are. It's one of those albums that feels good for parents as it does for little ones, because Magnificent is full of playful, feel-good songs that celebrate self-expression, imagination, and those everyday moments you'll recognize as a parent. It's the kind of music you can put on during the morning routine, in the car, or when your child needs a bit of calm. There's a really gentle message running through the album around confidence and emotional well-being without ever feeling heavy or lesson-led. Just catchy, thoughtful songs that kids can connect with and that you won't mind hearing on repeat. Magnificent is streaming now on all major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen. If you want to check it out, just hit the link in this episode's description and it'll take you right there.
it was summertime, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. Everybody is, taking advantage of the sunlight while they have it. But I was just like, wow, it's got to be so incredible to be a parent here, because you can leave and go take your kids to soccer practice and have a nice evening and have this actual work-life family balance that I think everybody strives for, but for some reason to Americans seems so revolutionary or just too hard. What is the thing that has kind of stood out to you the most about the culture and the work-life balance differences?
So many things, but I think you're onto something with the time that work ends. There is a real alignment between calendars. So I'm sure that if you've ever been in a situation where some of your kids were in a preschool and then some of your kids were already in grade school, you immediately
that's our life
start
right
to
now. Yeah.
Okay. You immediately start to feel the disconnect and you're like, do these institutions not talk? Like, what do they want parents to do? And so the entire country of Denmark, these 6 million people, have decided that there's a national calendar, and every week has a number. And, week 37, this is what the schools do, and this is what the workplace does. And so by having everything run together, by acknowledging the fact that when a school is off, there is a parent that goes along with that, they've made things a lot easier. And I know that we love talking about, reducing friction, and now we're rebelling against friction, but I think this is the kind of friction that it's really good to solve. You don't want to put everyone's greatest effort and brain power behind solving the problem of who will take care of my kid on this holiday.
Right.
That the school has decided to be closed for. And I am going to air quote holiday.
Right.
So that is probably the single greatest light bulb moment, is that you can design a calendar that everyone runs off of. That's like the building block.
Is so genius. It seems like the simplest thing too. Like it just seems like it should be such an obvious solution, and we make it so incredibly hard. Yeah, like you said, I mean, we have a preschool schedule, a elementary school schedule. Thank God I work for myself, and my husband became a stay-at-home dad for this exact reason, because the logistics with 3 kids is just crazy, and we would have had to hire like full-time nanny or babysitter before my kids started full-time school, because just the schlepping back and forth and the sick days. What do you do when they're sick for 3 days and then the next one gets sick for 3 days? And it's like this 2-week period where you have nowhere to put your kids. It's insane.
And kids there get sick. So,
right.
They haven't figured that out either, but it's really accepted and understood that kids get sick. And yes, you take some sick leave and you do what you can. But this idea of massive employer employment guilt does not exist from what I have seen. I have visited about 20 workplaces, probably interviewed more than 100 Danes at this point, and I just don't see the same mindset. And another thing I'll debunk is we assume that for someone to only work 37 hours, they probably don't care. And that's not what I see at all. Danes really love their jobs because there's not this huge salary differential. You're usually choosing work that fits you. And if you end up not liking the work, retraining and going back to school is a very accessible and free thing. So people generally like their jobs, and they really like the childcare that is provided, and they really like their hobbies and time outside of work. And so there's not this tension of being really mad that you have to go to work. Like the same battle that we're having over return to office, that doesn't exist in Denmark, because you have great childcare. You want to go to work most days a week and see the people that you work with, and you know that you're going to leave at 3:45. So there's not a battle.
Seems like a win-win. And yeah, like all of this is just so, and I know it's a smaller country and it would be, more complicated to do it in a big country like this, but it seems like we could be taking at least some of the steps, right? Like, is there one part of that work-life balance that you think it would be pretty easy to implement here and without like huge economic backlash?
I think you could end the workday earlier. And know that your employees are responsible, and the truth is they'll log on to do what they need to do later no matter what. But why not let people, why not make 4 o'clock the official end instead of 5, so that people can have daylight hours with their families, kids, and hobbies?
Yes.
We're carrying a work day, from 1912. We can move on.
Right. Or even, what do you think about like the 4-day work week?
I think the 4-day work week is interesting. I just think that that's not as easy of a grab. So if we could just make one move, I'm pretty sure that the things that people are doing between 4 to 5 are complete wastes of time. That is, we've studied this. We know that is the most inefficient use of your actual brain. You're shuffling around emails.
Right.
So just remove that. But huge fan of the 4-day work week as well. I just think we're a ways off from it.
Yeah, I do too. What do you think about the parental leave policies in places like Denmark and how they impact company culture and things like that?
This is, I like how you're asking this because it's not just about like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a year off? Because of course, of course it
Yeah,
would.
duh.
And I think one thing that Denmark has only recently done, so they were a little bit slower on this than the other Nordic countries, but now a portion of the parental leave has to go to fathers, and
Yeah,
so it's
like
a
the
use
use
it
it
or
or
lose
lose it.
it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, and so look, by the time you spend 11 weeks putting a baby to bed, the story of only I can do bedtime disappears.
Yep.
And so I think that that's amazing. But back to what you asked, which I think is the better question, is how does it impact a workplace to have someone out for a year? And this, I think, is really important because what they do is have a few more employees than necessary. And so there's almost always someone to truly backfill. And oftentimes what's done is someone will be brought in as a test. Hey, would this person make a good team member? And so by doing this long backfill, you get to answer that question in a very real way, in a way that an interview cannot. And we are so in the US, we're so caught up in meeting quarterly numbers. And part of the way that quarterly numbers, work is that you look at what your earnings are per share and how many employees you have. And so every incentive is about cut, 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 cut. And so doing things like letting people have a leave is almost impossible.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, we are going to come right back and we're going to talk a little bit more about this family life balance here in the United States. So we'll be right back. So, Marina, we were just talking a little bit about how the Danes seem to really have this work-life balance figured out and how much we could learn from them. I'm curious too about, there's like the policy, but then there's also the culture, right? So even if we changed policies here in the US, culture would kind of have to catch up, or maybe it would be the other way around. I'm not sure. But I think so many parents feel this pressure to like optimize every moment. So even when they're not at work or they're not at school, they're researching, the best after school activities for their kids or the best summer camps or how to enrich them in this way or that way. Why do you think we have so much pressure to optimize every single moment of parenthood and childhood?
Well, you just said it so well, the best, right? And this goes back to who's happier than us? How are we not number one? I think we love being the best. And we're just now really realizing how challenging it is to live like that. To always feel like even if you make a choice, there's something better out there. And so then you can't ever experience content. And that's probably why it's so hard for us to be happy, is that we think content is the same as complacent.
Right.
Versus realizing that, no, it's actually like it's good enough, and good enough is really good.
Yeah.
But we love productivity. We love saying that we did something useful with our time, and this is where I as a parent feel this too, but I don't really know the future that I'm getting my kids ready for.
I know.
All of the things that we thought were true when we were growing up were indeed true when we were growing up. There was such a great formula, and it was do good in high school and take your SATs and try to take as many difficult AP classes as you can, and then apply to college and go to the best college that you can, and then graduate, and there will be a great job waiting for you. And then after that job, you'll get promoted 2 more years after. And I think that a lot of us don't believe that.
No, how can we?
At least,
I know.
how can we believe that?
Yeah.
And so we don't know what we're preparing our kids for into this. I just don't fault us. Of course, we're grasping everything we can to try to raise resilient, strong children that will be able to brave whatever it is that awaits them. And I think that that's natural.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. This is like what keeps me up at night. I talk to my husband about this all the time too. I'm like, well, what activity do you think? Like, what's going to matter? Is college even going to be a thing that they need to get ready for? Like what? It's really hard to just not know and to have that blueprint that we thought we knew be kind of shattered in less than one generation, right?
Yeah. What I've settled on is that critical reasoning and an attention span will be these 2 unique characteristics. And so
true. Yeah.
In order to not spin out and make my kids' life, like a concerted cultivation camp where we're just constantly optimizing them like little
Mm-hmm.
crops.
Yep.
I just try to think about how can I have them think for themselves and how do I teach them to have an attention span so that when things are hard, as they undoubtedly will be, your first reaction is not to give up. And that is
Yeah.
all I can do.
Do you think, and I can guess where you're going to go with this, but do you think there is an activity or an extracurricular or a sport or something that help cultivate those skills? Because I agree with you.
I don't know. So I think you let your kids lead. And this is what I think is funny. I got this advice and I don't even think it was from, research. I think it was just something I heard and tucked away. But the parent said, unless my kids are begging to do it, like we're not doing it. And so I applied that to tiny kids. And I know that my 4-year-old cannot beg to go to ballet or soccer. And so we didn't do that. Like, unless they're begging, and I had to wait until they could communicate and beg, we just didn't do it. And so my kids have been really, I'm going to air quote, late to doing things. And I'll tell you, it hasn't mattered at all.
Okay, good.
It hasn't mattered.
More parents need to hear that because I think there's so much pressure. I mean, kids in San Francisco start little taught soccer at 18 months old. It's absolutely insane. And it's just them running around a field. They're not learning how to play soccer. But it's parents feel like they have to start everything so early and it's time consuming. It's expensive. And you don't even know if your kid's going to like soccer when they grow up or want to play
by
soccer.
5.
Yeah. Right.
Another, I think, advantage that I uniquely have is that I'm around 20-year-olds most of the day. And so I'm meeting thousands of elite students at Emory University. And I can't tell you the number of times I've heard them say, hey, yeah, I play here at Emory, or I swim here. And I started this sport when I was 16. And you're just
Amazing.
like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I had played soccer and I totally burned out on that. So I picked up a basketball and here I am on the basketball team.
Amazing.
And I think
that.
that helps ground me in it's not too late and too late for what.
I love that. And this is also another topic that I not fight with my husband on, but I think we disagree on because growing up, if I was in an activity, if my parents put me in an activity and I didn't like it, they would let me quit right away. They were like, as soon as you're not having fun, you're good. We don't have to keep doing this if you're not enjoying it. My husband feels like we should push them a little bit more if they're really talented at something or if it's something that, we just feel is important for their development, to have them kind of push through to a certain extent, not crazy. If they're crying or something about going, obviously not. What's your take on that? Do you look at it like a hobby that should just be enjoyed? Or do you think that there are some times where we do need to kind of nudge or encourage them to stick with things a little more?
Well, I'm you and my husband is your husband.
Okay.
And so
I wonder how many people have that dynamic.
Yeah, I treat it like a hobby. I'm like,
right.
Let me get this straight. I'm paying money to fight with you to get in the car.
Right. And then I have to actually watch the karate. I'm good.
Yes. So I'm 100% with you. My husband is he's big into, we signed up and we will finish this out.
Right. Right.
And it has been really interesting now that the kids are a little bit older to see that sometimes he is right. And that every once in a while, it has behooved us to say, okay, finish this out. And then lo and behold, swim is a very contentious sport in our household. And I really wanted to just let the kids quit. I'm like, this is so hard and they're so cold. And he was like, we're going to see this through. They're going to be good swimmers. And 3 years later, they are obsessed. And I would have, I would have let them quit.
Okay. So, gosh, that's hard. Yeah. And I'm thinking, as you're saying that too, my son, when he started soccer in kindergarten, hated it because he just has that personality that hates anything that's not easy. He has a really hard time with persistence. And now he loves it. He's obsessed with it now because all of his friends are obsessed with it. And so if we had let him quit when he was in kindergarten, I don't know. It's so hard. It's one of those things that's so hard. I have another question about you and your husband. We're going to be right back. Okay. We have just a little bit left to finish up with Marina, but I have one last question that I had to ask because I absolutely love this. And I think this is something that so many parents struggle with, especially when they first become parents. It's kind of the type of thing that experience will make you better at, but splitting the mental load. You talk about this in such a clear way that makes so much sense. So I'm really curious to hear how you and your husband split the mental load, because you have a very, very clear system.
We do. And I will say this will not make me sound joyful, but I want you to remember that I'm a happy person with lots of hobbies. But when it comes to the household, we're both ex-management consultants. That is how we started our careers. And so we are very process driven. And there are parts of home that I just don't think deserve my mind share.
Mm-hmm.
And that need to go on autopilot. So we've just kind of split the home into work streams, and you own an entire work stream. But the rule is, if you are not the owner of the work stream, you don't get to say things.
I love that. Okay.
And the other person will make mistakes, and you're still not allowed to say things unless you are willing to step in and take over the work stream. So as an example, I own camp. And so if I make a camp mistake, like that is on me and I will suffer the consequences. But my husband does not have to read any camp emails or worry about registration. He owns food. That's a big work stream. So he makes the lists, he shops, and he cooks. He cooks the same 10 things and has cooked the same 10 things for 9 years. I am not allowed to say anything about that unless I'm willing to step up and do that work. And so we literally just carry half.
Okay. I love that. How did you get started with that? Was it just something that came out of necessity where you guys were feeling like it was unequal, or did you just start your marriage that way because that's your personalities?
Yeah, I think we started like that. There was never a moment when I just said, hey, I'm doing too much. I think we were just always interested in taking care of chores.
Right.
In a efficient, let's get this done. And that is very different than a hobby. So if you can see behind me, do you see the paint that has started?
I was going to ask about the paint.
So I love DIY. That is a hobby. I'm not in a hurry. I don't need my husband to step in and share the load. This is my project. But that is so super different than the way that I feel about laundry. And so some people, might look at these as more of a joy-driven thing than a chore-driven thing. But for chores, it's a split.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right. My last question, because I love to read, and you just posted about your favorite books that you've ever read. Do you think you could narrow it down to just one book that you would suggest listeners read maybe this summer?
Your listeners, and I think you especially, Rachel, would enjoy this book called The Geography of Bliss.
Ooh, okay.
It is over 10 years old now. It's by a journalist and NPR journalist, Eric Weiner.
Okay.
And he traveled to 10 different countries and examined happiness at each of them. And the countries he went to are so wildly different. And he has the driest, most amazing sense of humor. And I think you will love it.
Okay. I'm adding it to my list right now. That sounds perfect. I love it. Love stuff like that. Okay. Well, Marina, this has been such a fun conversation. I'm so glad we got to connect kind of in person-ish. Where can everybody find you and read your work?
You can find me on Instagram at Prof. Marina Cooley, and then on Substack, Prof. Off Duty. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. I feel like we could have talked forever, but you've inspired me to get a hobby mostly. So I will report back and let you know what I choose. I think I said at the beginning of the year, my New Year's resolution was to start pottery. So I need to get on that. But that's a hard one because it's a class that you have to sign up for. It's
that's perfect for you. That's exactly what you need.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you need.
I need tough love is what I need. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.